I shall leave this office with
Good
regret
evening.
at not completing my term,
This is the
but with the
37th
gratitude
time
for the privilege
I
of
have
serving
spoken
as
to
your
you from this
president
office,
for the past
where
5
so
and
many
a half
decisions
years.
have been made that
We
changed
have ended
history
America's longest
of
war
this nation.
within the work of securing a
Each
lasting
time
peace in the world.
I have done so
The goals
discussed
ahead
with
are
you
even
some
more
matter that I
far-reaching and
believe
more
affected the
difficult.
national interest.
We must complete a
In
structure
all the
of peace
decisions I have made
so
in
that
my
it will be
public
said
life,
of this
I have
generation,
always
our
tried
generation
to
of
do what was
Americans,
best for
but the
nation.
people of all nations, not only that we ended
Throughout the
one
long
war,
and difficult period of
but that we
Watergate,
prevented future
I have
wars.
felt it was my duty to persevere, to make
We have
every
unlocked the
possible effort to
doors that
complete
for a
the term
quarter
of
century
office to
stood
which you
between the
elected me.
United States and the
In the past
People's
few days,
Republic
however,
of China.
it has become evident to me that I no longer have
We must now
a
ensure
strong enough
that
political
the one
base
quarter
in
of the
Congress
world's people
to justify
who live in the People's
continuing
Republic of
that
China
effort.
will live and remain
As long as
not our
there was
enemies,
such a base,
but our
I
friends.
felt strongly that it was necessary to see the constitutional process
100 million
to its
people
conclusion.
in the Arab countries,
That to do
many
otherwise
of
would
whom
be
have considered us
unfaithful
their
to
enemies
the spirit of
for
that
nearly 20
deliberately
years,
difficult process.
now look
And
on
a
us as their
dangerously
friends.
destabilizing precedent for the future.
We must continue to build that friendship
But with the disappearance
so that peace
of
can
that base,
settle at
I now
last over the
believe
Middle East, and so that
the
the cradle of
constitutional
civilization
purpose has been served,
will not become its
and
grave.
there is no longer a need for the
Together
process
with the Soviet Union,
to be
we have made the
prolonged.
crucial breakthroughs that have begun the process of
I would have
limiting
preferred
nuclear arms.
to carry through to the finish,
But we must set
whatever
as
the
our goal,
personal agony it would have
not
involved.
just limiting, but reducing
And my family
and finally destroying these
unanimously
terrible
urged
weapons
me to do
so that they cannot destroy civilization, and so that
The
the
interests
threat
of the nation
of
must
nuclear
always
war
come
will no
before
longer
any
exist
personal
and lay
considerations.
over the world and its people.
From the
We
discussions
have
I have
opened
had
new
with congressional
relations
and
in the
other
Soviet
leaders, I
Union.
have concluded
We must continue to
that
develop
because of the
and
Watergate
expand
matter,
that new
I
relationship
might not have
so
the
that the
support
two
of the
strongest
Congress
nations of the world
that I would
will
consider
live together
necessary
in
to back the very
cooperation
difficult decisions
rather than
and carry out the
confrontation.
duties of this office in the way
Around the world,
interests of the
in
nation
Asia and
will
Africa,
require.
in Latin America,
I have
the Middle
never
East,
been
there are
equipped
millions of people who
to
live
leave
in
office before
terrible
my term is completed is
poverty.
abhorrent to every instinct in
We
my
must
body.
keep our goal, turning away from production
But
for
as
war
president,
and
I
expanding
must put
production
the
for
interests
peace,
of America first.
so that people everywhere
America needs
on
a
the earth can at last
full-time
look
president
forward to their children's time,
and a full-time
if
Congress,
not in our own time,
particularly
to
at
having the
this time,
necessities
with problems we face
for a
at home and
decent
abroad.
life.
To continue to fight through the months ahead for my personal vindication would almost totally absorb the time and attention of both the President and the Congress in a period when our entire focus should be on the great issues of peace abroad and prosperity without inflation at home. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour in this office. As I recall the high hopes for America with which we began this second term, I feel a great sadness that I will not be here in this office working on your behalf to achieve those hopes in the next 2.5 years. But in turning over direction of the government to Vice President Ford, I know, as I told the nation when I nominated him for that office 10 months ago, that the leadership of America will be in good hands. In passing this office to the Vice President, I also do so with a profound sense of the weight of responsibility that will fall on his shoulders tomorrow, and therefore of the understanding, the patience, the cooperation he will need from all Americans. As he assumes that responsibility, he will deserve the help and the support of all of us. As we look to the future, the first essential is to begin healing the wounds of this nation, to put the bitterness and divisions of the recent past behind us, and to rediscover those shared ideals that lie at the heart of our strength and unity as a great and as a free people. By taking this action, I hope that I will have hastened the start of that process of healing which is so desperately needed in America. I regret deeply any injuries that may have been done in the course of the events that led to this decision. I would say only that if some of my judgments were wrong, and some were wrong, they were made in what I believed at the time to be the best interest of the nation. To those who have stood with me during these past difficult months, to my family, my friends, the many others who joined in supporting my cause because they believed it was right, I will be eternally grateful for your support. And to those who have not felt able to give me your support, let me say, I leave with no bitterness toward those who have opposed me. Because all of us in the final analysis have been concerned with the good of the country, however our judgments might differ. So let us all now join together in affirming that common commitment and in helping our new president succeed for the benefit of all Americans. I shall leave this office with regret at not completing my term, but with gratitude for the privilege of serving as your president for the past 5.5 years. These years have been a momentous time in the history of our nation and the world. They have been a time of achievement in which we can all be proud, achievements that represent the shared efforts of the administration, the Congress, and the people. But the challenges ahead are equally great, and they too will require the support and the efforts of the Congress and the people working in cooperation with the new administration. We have ended America's longest war, but in the work of securing a lasting peace in the world, the goals ahead are even more far-reaching and more difficult. We must complete a structure of peace so that it will be said of this generation, our generation of Americans, by the people of all nations, not only that we ended one war, but that we prevented future wars. We have unlocked the doors that for a quarter of a century stood between the United States and the People's Republic of China. We must now ensure that the 1/4 of the world's people who live in the People's Republic of China will be and remain not our enemies, but our friends. In the Middle East, 100 million people in the Arab countries, many of whom have considered us their enemy for nearly 20 years, now look on us as their friends. We must continue to build on that friendship so that peace can settle at last over the Middle East, and so that the cradle of civilization will not become its grave. Together with the Soviet Union, we have made the crucial breakthroughs that have begun the process of limiting nuclear arms. But we must set as our goal not just limiting, but reducing and finally destroying these terrible weapons so that they cannot destroy civilization, and so that the threat of nuclear war will no longer hang over the world and the people. We have opened a new relation with the Soviet Union. We must continue to develop and expand that new relationship so that the two strongest nations of the world will live together in cooperation rather than confrontation. Around the world, in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, in the Middle East, there are millions of people who live in terrible poverty, even starvation. We must keep as our goal turning away from production for war and expanding production for peace, so that people everywhere on this earth can at last look forward in their children's time, if not in our own time, to having the necessities for a decent life. Here in America, we are fortunate that most of our people have not only the blessings of liberty, but also the means to live full and good, and by the world's standards, even abundant lives. We must press on, however, toward a goal not only of more and better jobs, but of full opportunity for every American. And of what we are striving so hard right now to achieve, prosperity without inflation. For more than a quarter of a century in public life, I have shared in the turbulent history of this era. I have fought for what I believed in. I have tried, to the best of my ability, to discharge those duties and meet those responsibilities that were entrusted to me. Sometimes I have succeeded, and sometimes I have failed. But always, I have taken heart from what Theodore Roosevelt once said about the man in the arena whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, because there is not effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deed, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumphs of high achievements, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. I pledge to you tonight that as long as I have a breath of life in my body, I shall continue in that spirit. I shall continue to work for the great causes to which I have been dedicated throughout my years as a congressman, a senator, vice president, and president. The cause of peace, not just for America, but among all nations. Prosperity, justice, and opportunity for all of our people. There is one cause, above all, to which I have been devoted, and to which I shall always be devoted for as long as I live. When I first took the oath of office as president 5.5 years ago, I made this sacred commitment to consecrate my office, my energies, and all the wisdom I can summon to the cause of peace among nations. I've done my very best in all the days since to be true to that pledge. As a result of these efforts, I am confident that the world is a safer place today, not only for the people of America, but for the people of all nations. And that all of our children have a better chance than before of living in peace rather than dying in war. This, more than anything, is what I hoped to achieve when I sought the presidency. This, more than anything, is what I hope will be my legacy to you, to our country, as I leave the presidency. To have served in this office is to have felt a very personal sense of kinship with each and every American. In leaving it, I do so with this prayer. May God's grace be with you in all the days ahead.